How's it going, guys? It's the Peruvian Trucker back with another video, and this is going to be the same as yesterday, basically a short video, because earlier today I got to leave Arnold, Pennsylvania. So spirits were higher. It wasn't as gloomy as the day before. A lot of sunlight, and I just wanted to share the contrast and difference. So again, if you guys like these videos, let me know. I personally like videos in which I discuss subjects more in detail than just this, but I understand that some people like to, you know, sightsee and see a little bit of the places where I go to. So this is not going to be the norm. I plan to improve on sharing the places along with some more content, but that's all I have for now. So enjoy and let me know what you think. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
be let down, said the sad men with guitars to the 1990s. These guitars could crunch or roar or screech or snarl, but prettiest of all, saddest of all, and maybe even angriest of all, they could jangle. My name is Rob Arbella. I'm a staff writer at The Ringer. This podcast is called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. And I need to complain about something. It has bothered me for 28 years or so that 2 consecutive songs on the Gin Blossoms album New Miserable Experience start basically the same way. It's their major label debut from 1992. That was my favorite song on the album. It's called Found Out About You. It was written by the lead guitarist and co-founder, a guy named Doug Hopkins. It's gloomy, it's self-pitying, it's a post-breakup, unrequited love situation. He's basically stalking her, it's semi-problematic, and Hopkins wrote it, allegedly, about an ex-girlfriend who kicked him in the head at an REM concert. Or maybe she just punched him after the concert. Anyway, that's what it says on the internet. Whatever the details, this song's real-life backstory is way heavier than it sounds. The very next track is called Allison Road. The lead singer of the Gin Blossoms, a guy named Robin Wilson, wrote it, and there's still a lot of melancholy and regret and whatnot, but it's upbeat, it's sunny in its way, and it starts like this. It's the same thing. It's like that old Far Side cartoon, The Many Moods of an Irish Setter, where it's 6 drawings of the same dog making the exact same face, and under each drawing it says happy or angry or excited or depressed. It's a versatile riff, let's say. The jangle contains multitudes. There is a sweetness, but there is also, if you do it right, a vast darkness. Doug Hopkins struggled with alcoholism, mental health issues, and got kicked out of the band before they got famous, and took his own life shortly after they got famous. But before he left us, he gave us the chorus that made the Gin Blossoms famous. We should talk about this word jangle briefly, I promise. It's a rock critic word, it's a little dorky. For plenty of people, it's not a little pejorative. You can trace it from Mr. Tambourine Man to This Charming Man, from the Byrds to REM. But don't be that guy at the party. Suffice it to say that jangle is always heavier than it sounds, both the word and the action. It's the sweetest ones you've got to watch out for. The Gin Blossoms formed in the late 80s in Tempe, Arizona. A bunch of random dudes from a bunch of other random bands who joined forces and somehow got really, really good at harnessing the jangle and became functionally the house band at a Tempe Hot Wings joint called Long Wongs. That's what it was called. That Long Wongs in Tempe closed in 2004, but there's still one in Phoenix. The Long Wong is a hot dog. Personally, I would add chili to it, which would make it officially a Dragon Wong. While we're talking names, the legend is there's this notorious book from the late 50s called Hollywood Babylon by Kenneth Anger. It's a tabloid proto-TMZ roasting of movie stars and all their scandals and dirty laundry. And there's a photo of W.C. Fields with these giant splotches on his face, allegedly from drinking too much. Ergo, the Gin Blossoms. Regional fame ensues. The Gin Blossoms released their debut album, Dusted, in 1989. Recorded locally, released locally, pretty big deal locally. If you really want to hear it in 2020, Dusted is a YouTube proposition, unless you're the sort of person who'd pay $60 for a used CD, which maybe you are, that type of person. The value in that, to my mind, is the chance to play fantasy A&R guy. So you imagine yourself as a big shot record label stooge with your feet up on your gold-plated desk, smoking a cigar with giant stacks of CDs from regional sensations teetering behind you. And you pull Dusted at random from one of these stacks, and you pop it in, or you have your assistant pop it in, and you light another cigar. And play acting all this now, you try to imagine if you would have heard it. The fame, the fortune, the glory, MTV, the radio, karaoke, 30 years or so later, podcasts. Could this band be huge? Could this song be huge? It's a tough game sometimes, not this time. It's all there on Dusted. It's all there on track 9, which is called Hey Jealousy. That's it. That's the song. It's faster and it's cruddier sounding in a charismatic sort of way, and there's a Hot Wings joint in Tempe, Arizona scruffiness to it all, but it's Hey Jealousy. And the difference between that Hey Jealousy and the Hey Jealousy you know and love is down to diction and studio gloss. It's just now it's track 2 on the band's 1992 major label debut, which because this was 1992 they called New Miserable Experience. And just now the song sounds bigger and sharper and softer and harder and brighter and shinier. It sounds plated in gold. The idea of smuggling really sad lyrics into a super bright and catchy pop song did not originate with the Gin Blossoms, or with the 90s, or with rock and roll, or with pop songs, really. But in 1992, 93, 94, Hey Jealousy on the radio was supposed to be the antidote, the contrast, the rom-com counter-programming to Nirvana, to Pearl Jam, to Nine Inch Nails, to grunge, to rage, to macho anger and self-loathing and loathing. It was just a bonus, really, that Hey Jealousy could also be 10 times darker in sentiment than songs that sounded 10 times heavier, which you've got to credit to the guy who wrote it, Doug Hopkins. In retrospect, Doug Hopkins was the Pete Best of the Gin Blossoms, though when he was actually in the Gin Blossoms, he was arguably the Paul McCartney of the Gin Blossoms, or the John Lennon, or both. People say a lot that he could have been what Noel Gallagher was to Oasis, the cranky mastermind, the genius songwriter, the conscience. Doug didn't sing much, but it was his voice, it was his angst. And in the early 90s especially, your angst was the most sacred and powerful and monetizable thing that you owned. It's a very strange line, you can trust me not to think. But the original line, Doug's original line, was apparently, you can trust me not to drink, which unfortunately is way better. The lurid details, the grimier aspects of how Doug came to leave the band, I'm disinclined to get in the weeds too much. It's ugly, it's upsetting, it's contested, it's immaterial. The basic chronology, which everyone more or less agrees on now, is this. The Gin Blossoms signed with A&M Records, with a major. And an initial burst of major label bullshit ensues, but eventually they find themselves in Memphis, Tennessee, recording at Ardent Studios. Then this is the band's big break, and Hopkins is struggling in this famous studio beneath the weight of these great expectations and all the drinking he's doing to manage these expectations. John Hampton, who produced the album, later explained it to Magnet Magazine this way. Have you ever seen the movie Leaving Las Vegas? Try making a record with someone like that. That was not the 90s movie you wanted to be compared to. Hopkins plays guitar all over New Miserable Experience, but a lot of those parts he meant to re-record to improve. But he just couldn't, and his bandmates put up with it until they didn't. They kicked him out before they'd even finished the record. It's possible that the label made them do it. So Hopkins goes back to Tempe, and New Miserable Experience comes out, and initially it bricks. The band tours relentlessly in the shitty van on the album cover, but it's going nowhere, and the whole thing looks like an abject failure, until one of these vague record label stories where the Suits decide to give Hey Jealousy one more push. They shot a video for the song for $5,000, and they shot another video for $10,000, but now they decide to drop $40,000 on yet another video. That video is super boring. They're all just hanging out in somebody's house. Wilson sings to a fish in a fishbowl. He sings to a blender. I don't know, man. But it clicks. Hey Jealousy climbs the charts. And Found Out About You follows. Back in Tempe, Hopkins starts another band, and regional fame ensues. But the story goes that he quits that band on stage after he botches a guitar solo. And afterward, those guys won't take him back either. Meanwhile, he sits at home and watches the Gin Blossoms play his song on Jay Leno's Tonight Show. And he's pissed and he feels betrayed, and he wonders what his royalty cut might be. Eventually, he gets a gold record for Hey Jealousy, like the plaque you hang proudly on your wall. And he hangs it proudly on his wall, and then a few weeks later he smashes it. Sometime after that, he buys a gun at a pawn shop, and he's found dead of a gunshot wound on Sunday, December 5th, 1993. He was 32. Variety runs a small obituary, noting that it was his 6th suicide attempt in 10 years. And it quotes his sister, Sarah, as saying, "When I saw him Thursday, I knew I'd never see him again.